quo.com/join. That's quo.com/join to try Quo free. quo.com/JOIN.
Sirius XM Faction Talk, giving you the artists, the music, and the bands you love.
70,000-80,000 people are going to show up and celebrate this incredible event.
Trunk Nation, the final word in all things hard rock and metal.
This is a family event.
With host Eddie Trunk.
Yes, indeed. It is a hump day, as they say. A Wednesday. I was a little confused. I didn't even know what day of the week it was earlier. Asking Joel about doing something we did already, recording the podcast wraps. I don't know, I just get lost in these weeks. Things fly by and so much going on before, during, after this radio show. It's like trying to navigate can be difficult. You guys can relate, I'm sure. But it is indeed a Wednesday. It is the 13th day of May, 2026, and it is 3 o'clock in the East, noon in the West, as we get ready for a couple hours, as we do every weekday, talking rock with you here on Trunk Nation. Live in the 3 to 5 Eastern window, anytime. Live or on demand using the SiriusXM app. Remember, if you listen during the live window using the app, you can always call into the show by just hitting that little phone icon on the app. Otherwise, you can call in, and I hope you save the number and use it whenever you want, because our number is 844-686-5863. Again, 844-686-5863 if you'd like to get involved in the show, and we're going to get you involved today because I decided today we are going to talk about tribute bands, and I will get into that here in a second. As usual, though, a little update on stuff going on. We have so much stuff happening, pending, potentially happening, maybe getting moved. It is crazy. Like I tell you all the time, the work for me for this show is the 22 hours I'm not on the air, organizing and trying to work schedules and studios and guests and lock things in and who's coming, who's not coming, who has to reschedule. It's crazy. I do a lot of that stuff myself, and it's crazy. So the latest that I have for you just on upcoming stuff here on the show is, all things go well, Neal Schon of Journey tomorrow. Of course, yesterday we had a great talk with Jason Newsted. If you did not hear that, go get it on the app. We covered Metallica. We covered his new Chop House thing that was just announced, the tour. We talked about the Van Halen thing. I think a lot of people forgot about that. You know, that Jason was at the center of that whole Van Halen deal where he leaked the news there was going to be a Van Halen tribute tour, basically, and he was asked to play in it. That was a huge story a couple of years ago, and I brought that up as well. We talked about Metallica at the Sphere, which is making some news out there right now. There was a lot of stuff in the Newsted interview. We talked about And Justice for All and how he was barely audible on it as his first Metallica record. So tons of stuff to dig in on the Newsted interview if you did not hear it. And we do have video of that, which we'll get up for you sometime in the near future on YouTube. Looking beyond tomorrow, which will likely be Neal Schon. He was traveling. He said he thought he was good for tomorrow, so we're going with that. Journey just announced 40 more concert dates for their farewell touring. So that is scheduled for tomorrow. And then, of course, we'll close our week on a free-for-all Friday, as usual, on Friday. As we peek into next week, we may have to shift some stuff around. There are two, three things kind of in flux, which gets fluxier by the minute based on studios available, where we can do something. It's crazy, again, trying to navigate some of this stuff. But it's all good. It's all good stuff to have. But if all goes well next week, we will have Youngblood, who is blowing up around the world right now. As I say all the time, whether you like some of these newer rock artists, whether it be Sleep Token or Youngblood or whoever, Poppy or, I don't know, Beartooth or Bear Claw or, you know what I'm saying, like whoever. You know, whether you haven't figured out Ghost yet, whatever it may be. If you're a rock fan, you got to root for this stuff. You don't have to like it. You know, I mean, if it's not your taste, it's not your taste. But you got to root for it as a rock fan because that's what we need to keep the momentum going and bring new people under the rock umbrella. You know, it always turns over every 10, 15, 20 years. And you could make the case that Youngblood, and by the way, The Warning, let's not forget, who are opening for Youngblood and are also emerging, and both have been on this show, that, you know, they are leading the charge out there right now. But Youngblood sold out arenas throughout Europe. And the tour he is now doing in the U.S., which is in, you know, 4,000 to 5,000 to 6,000 capacity venues, is sold out. Like legit sold out. So it's pretty remarkable to see what's happening with this guy. And we likely will have him on the show, hopefully in studio, next Tuesday is the plan. We had Stuart Copeland of The Police lined up. We may have to move him because of that. So Youngblood is in Vegas next week. He's playing Vegas and LA. And also an announced semi-private, super intimate show in LA on Saturday, which I plan to attend. But there's a lot going on with this guy. And hopefully we'll have him in studio. That's the plan, if all goes well, next week on Tuesday from Vegas. And if all goes well, we will have Alice Cooper in studio from Vegas on Thursday. However, now there's a chance I may need to pre-record that. So again, stuff's moving around. But just so you know, potential guests, tentative guests, Neil Sean tomorrow. Next week, at some point, in some way, some combination of Youngblood, Stuart Copeland, Alice Cooper. I mean, you want to talk about variety, right? In that sentence there, we got a ton of variety, a ton of different eras. And who knows, maybe The Warning. I don't know. You know, it's just, there's a lot going on. So just as usual, listen every day, please, live or on the app. And as I always say, please follow on social media because we let you know what's happening there. I'm going to go see Alter Bridge tonight. They are playing in New Jersey, where I am at the moment. So I'm always excited to see AB. I've not seen them play live in a while. They've not toured in a while. 3/4 of Alter Bridge, as you know, are also Creed. So I did see 3/4 of the guys just recently on the Summer of '99 cruise, but that was Creed, not Alter Bridge. Totally different band in terms of material and singer, obviously. So looking forward to seeing Alter Bridge, who I totally love, playing tonight in New Jersey at a venue called the Wellmont. Filter, who are also on the Summer of '99 cruise, are opening, as is Tim Montana, who came up on the show the other day. Not sure if I'll get there for the opening acts, but I'll do my best. But always excited to see Alter Bridge, truly one of my favorite bands of the last 20 years. So I'll be able to report on that a little bit on tomorrow's show as well. Okay, so light news today. And as I mentioned today, I want to turn our focus towards tribute acts. Tribute bands have become big business and have become, some of them have become pretty darn huge. And in a few minutes, we are going to be joined by a member of what has got to be, I would think, one of if not the biggest tribute act out there. It is a band that has come up a few times on this show because I've brought them up because it's astonishing how big they've gotten. They are a Pink Floyd tribute called Brit Floyd. And just to give you an idea of the kind of business that they are doing, they just launched, they've been going for 15 years. They launched a 123-date world tour. And they are playing large theaters and in some cases amphitheaters across the country tributing Pink Floyd. They are playing 2 nights in a row in Denver at the legendary Red Rocks Amphitheater. This is a tribute band, folks. So to get a little bit of their story, and I don't really have members of tribute bands on that often because, okay, it's great they're doing what they're doing, but they didn't write these songs, they didn't record these songs. But in this case, this band has gone to a different level. I've never seen them. I know people who have. They've told me that the production is great, the song, the delivery of the music is great, etc. And joining us in a few minutes from the band is their bass player and a founding member, and his name is Ian Cattell. Now, Ian, when we talked about this band before, I don't know any of these guys, but Ian happened to be listening and actually called in, if you remember, if you were listening that day. But they just started out on another tour playing, large venues. And I thought it would be interesting to spend a few minutes, before we jump off a little more into the tribute world, with a guy who is in arguably one of the biggest tribute bands out there, Brit Floyd. And look, it's an interesting time to do this show because there are more tribute bands than ever. As I've been saying, if you go to a House of Blues or something like that in this country, every other act on the marquee is a tribute band. You could make the case that some actual bands using the actual band name are tribute bands, right? We've heard that. There's a good amount of bands out there touring with no original members. If you use the metric that I do, that the original lineup of the band is the lineup that recorded the first album, that's always what I go by. There are a lot of bands out there playing with no original members. We just had Johnny Van Zandt of Leonard Skinner on. We have had in the past members of the current Foreigner on, Jeff Pilson and those guys. As we all know, you have a tour going out in amphitheaters, Leonard Skinner and Foreigner this summer. Both bands, neither band has any original members. So in that instance, the actual bands, because they have the rights to the name, are actually technically, if you want to get technical, tribute bands. But when you look at actual pure tributes, meaning they're not using the name and they're doing it without the cooperation of the band they're paying tribute to, there's a ton of them. There's a ton of Kiss tributes. There's a bunch of Van Halen tributes. There are Metallica tributes. There are U2 tributes. There are Pink Floyd tributes. Tons of Zeppelin tributes. In many cases, the band being paid tribute to, being tributed, is no longer active. In some cases, the real band is. I'm going to be hosting a show coming up in St. Charles, Illinois at the Arcada with a UFO tribute called Lights Out. And that is on June 13th, by the way. And that band, as I mentioned, will actually feature Andy Parker, who is the actual drummer in UFO, playing in the band. So it's really interesting to see what's going on. You have guys that have been in established or are in established original bands also doing tributes on the side. Pat Badger, the bass player in Extreme, has an Eagles tribute. Steve Brown, the guitarist from Trickster, was just on my Hair Nation show a couple weeks ago. If you follow him on social media, pumping the hell out of his new Bon Jovi tribute. And I'm hosting a show with them in November in New Jersey. So it's all over in every kind of incarnation, you know, with musicians from major original bands, with no musicians you've ever heard of, bands that have the rights to the name who technically are tributes using the name because they have the rights. It's wild. And the other thing about this that's interesting, and this just flared up online, I think it was over the weekend, because I'm always asked what I think of tribute bands by people, and I've said the same thing consistently. I have no problem with it. As long as you acknowledge it's a tribute, as long as you, understand that, and as long as that is well documented that it is, and as long as it's being done respectfully, I have no problem with it. It is what it is. And just like anything, some are good, some not so good, some are bad. But, you know, some people are taking real big liberties with the marketing. You know, when I'm in Vegas, I see billboards up all the time. Like there's a billboard up on the 15 right by my house, and it's real big. I don't know how they're getting away with it. Real big on the billboard. I forget what casino it is. It says Billy Joel and Elton John in real big letters. Driving by, you're like, holy shit, they're playing together? And then you look real closely, you know, as performed by, you know, so there's some legalities there too that are pretty interesting, right? You've got guys that have been in tribute bands that are now in the actual band. The guy that plays in Jason Bonham's Zeppelin show, Mr. Jimmy, was in a Zeppelin tribute in Japan. Tommy Thayer, who's been in Kiss for 25 years, before that was in a Kiss tribute. Arnel Pineda, who's been singing in Journey forever, came from a Journey tribute in the Philippines. The guy that sings for Steven Adler's band, Ari, was in a Guns N' Roses tribute. So there's all these connectivities with tribute bands that are interesting. And the other thing about it is, just a few days ago, there was a little flare-up online because apparently Dee Snider, who has always been outspoken, and even though I don't always agree with Dee, I love the fact that Dee tells how he feels when he's asked and doesn't care about the fallout. And he basically kind of, I guess, in response to something on X, he blasted tribute bands. He basically said they're uncreative, it's a joke, it's no point to it. He was not fond of tribute bands. I have the opposite view. I have no problem with it. And they're also a really good vehicle. You know, if you've got people out there that are guys in their 50s and their 60s, and maybe they tried to make it in original music and they never quite made it, but they just want to play and have fun playing and make a little money playing. That's a great angle to go, a tribute or a cover band. Because let's face it, the likelihood of you, if at that age, having any success with an original band is like you might as well play the lottery. It is beyond brutal. Even if you're 25 trying to do it, it's brutal. Telling you, ageism is alive and well, but if you can go up there and impersonate Don Henley or whatever and pay tribute to that music, or Roger Waters or whatever, you can have a great career. But Dee, said what he said, and there's a Van Halen tribute who I've seen who are very good called Fan Halen, not Van, Fan, F-A-N. And I don't know if it was the guitar player, the singer, one of the guys wrote a very well-worded response to Dee's comments about tribute bands, obviously taking exception to it. So that was a newsy thing online. If you dive into that world a day or two ago, you may have picked up on that. So we're going to talk tribute bands, and we're going to talk to a member of what is clearly one of the biggest ones. I mean, a band that's, you got tribute bands that go out, they do the weekend stuff. They pop up in a club, local, in their town, whatever. They go in a certain radius. They play weekends. They got day jobs. This band, Brit Floyd, they're doing 123 shows. This is a production in buses, vehicles, whatever, playing Red Rocks. There's a whole nother level these guys have gotten to. So I want to get a little bit of that story with one of the members of that band joining us in minutes. And then when we're done with that conversation, and after you hear that, I want to hear from you on your thoughts about tribute bands. And maybe if you go to see them, or you've seen some, and I don't think there's anybody that has not seen some, you can't avoid them. Your thoughts, if you like them, if you don't like it, and maybe a shout out of maybe one or two that you saw that were exceptional. So we'll go to the phones and get you involved in most of the second hour, maybe even before that. I don't know how much time we'll take with Ian, but we'll get a little backstory on them, and then we'll jump off of that into your calls on your thoughts on tribute acts and ones you want to give a shout out to if you have seen somebody that you really liked. Before we do that, again, very light news today on this Wednesday. Mention that Deep Purple, now with the members in their 80s, still touring, still making new music. 10 years ago, I did a farewell tour with these guys in Mexico. They are still going. New album coming called Splat. They released a video and earlier a single for the first track from that album, which is called Arrogant Boy. You can see it now online. Motorhead is releasing a 20th anniversary edition of their album Kiss of Death. It'll come out on July 3rd. It'll include some live material, bonus tracks, the usual bells and whistles, CD, vinyl, etc. Again, July 3rd for that. Motley Crue, who you talked about earlier in the week, is getting ready to do their tour. They just performed on American Idol. It's amazing with Motley. I don't know what it is, but seems to be, and has been for a little while now, and I don't know if it's because of the mix stuff or whatever, just seems to be a lot of polarization in the fan base right now with Motley Crue. It's hard to figure. You pick it up online, you pick it up at the shows. There are people upset about the Mick thing. Again, I don't quite understand that, because Mick, unfortunately, had to leave the band because of his physical limitations. I don't know if it's because the lawsuit stuff was so public. I don't know. It just seems like people have really kind of like chosen a side on how they feel about Motley lately. Even the American Idol performance, you see all this stuff online. And I take all that with a grain of salt, but you pick up on it because it does impact the band in terms of fan response and tickets and what have you, with them going out on a tour. But anyway, Motley Crue have had a ton of reissues of their catalog, greatest hits records, live records, repackaging of the catalog, box sets. There is more coming. There is a box set announced today called Crucial Crew, 5 LP picture disc, and also a 5 CD collection. So props for doing CDs on this. I always love that. It, of course, is a box set of the first 5 albums, all in picture disc format, coming out on July 10th. Breaking Benjamin, band that's been around now for about 20, 25 years, and certainly one of the bigger bands in what would be considered more modern-leaning rock. Even though 25 years is a long time, in most people's world, they're still more of a modern, active-leaning rock band. Breaking Benjamin released a new song today. They've put out very little new music in the last 5-6 years or so. I don't think it was the last record, the previous record maybe. I mentioned this. I did a release special with these guys. It might still be on YouTube. It's probably 15 years ago now. Forget the name of the record. I was still doing that metal show, or we just wrapped up doing that metal show, and I remember their label reached out to me, Hollywood Records, it was at the time, and they asked if I would host an interview, a virtual release party with the band. And we did it at a YouTube. I don't know if they still do, at the Chelsea Market in New York City. YouTube had their own studio where you could just go in there and broadcast straight onto YouTube. This was before every person on the planet had cameras coming off their computers and phones in HD. And I remember I went in there and I did that with those guys and got to know them, and it was great. And I see them from time to time. I saw Ben at Rocklahoma last year from Breaking Benjamin. Great guys, real good band. But I remember the story because they offered me, money, the label did, to do this special. And I remember in my deal, Hollywood Records was, I don't know if they still exist, but Hollywood Records was owned by Disney. Yes, Dark Before Dawn. Thanks, Joel. That was the record. That's the record I did the special for. It might still be on YouTube. You could probably find it if you search my name and Breaking Benjamin or something. 2018. So it was a year or two after that metal show ended. But anyway, I remember saying to Hollywood Records, I said, Dark Before Dawn 2015. So it was the last year at TMS, whatever. I said to Hollywood Records, I said, well, listen, whatever you're going to pay me, fine, but here's what I want. I need 4 tickets for 3 days to Disney. Because I wanted to take my family to Disney. And if you've ever gone to Disney, it's stupid expensive. Stupid expensive for the park tickets. And, Disney owned, I don't know the ownership now of these companies, but they owned ESPN, ABC, Hollywood Records, and they did it. Oh, yeah, no problem. We'll do that. A couple weeks later, I went to Disney with my family. I went to the will call window. There are our passes. So I always think of Breaking Benjamin when I think of that. But anyway, they put out a new song today called Something Wicked. Also notable about Breaking Benjamin, they are going to tour Europe for the first time since 2017. And why that is significant is Ben from Breaking Benjamin will not fly. He had one bad experience on a plane a long time ago, and he will not fly. So you imagine, that's why Breaking Benjamin has predominantly operated in America. However, going to Europe, and they've done it before, they have to take a boat. He has to take a boat. I remember I just talked to somebody who worked for them then. He goes, yeah, it's a pain in the ass. We got to get on a ship to go to England to tour Europe because he will not go on a plane. So he's getting ready to get on the boat again to go over there. And rare Breaking Benjamin tour outside of America. Well, I'll hit up Ben. Maybe we'll do something closer to the record coming out. And again, we mentioned this yesterday, and this news came down while we were wrapping up yesterday, or in the middle of yesterday's show, and I brought it up to Jason Newsted before we wrapped up yesterday when he was on as our guest. But again, you saw much more of this on social media, and Aerosmith made a really nice post earlier today about legendary producer Jack Douglas passing away at 80 years old. You see many of the artists he produced making statements as well. Jack was a great guy, iconic producer. I knew him a little bit over the years. And again, we had him on the show about 5 years ago on a producer spotlight, which you can find on the SiriusXM app if you punch in his name. So rest in peace, Jack Douglas. We talked more about that yesterday. One final note here, Stevie Wonder celebrating a birthday, 76 years old today. I was talking about Steve Winwood, who turned 78 yesterday, and I said, it's amazing when you consider when these guys started their career that they are still only in their mid-70s, and that's because they started so incredibly young. as Stevie Wonder certainly did, just 76 today. I remember when I was in England last year, when I went over to shoot that scene in the Scorpions biopic, I was riding a bike. I rented a bicycle and I was riding it through, I think it was Hyde Park. And I hear what sounds like Stevie Wonder playing out on the lawn. And I was like, that must be a really good Stevie Wonder tribute. And I stopped the bicycle and I looked at the sign and it was the real Stevie Wonder. That was pretty cool, riding a bicycle through a park in England and hearing Stevie Wonder playing throughout the forest. Happy birthday to him, 76. Joel, anything you want to add?
We'll say happy birthday as well to Buckethead. He turned 57 today. And for those who are a fan of the Tiny Desk concerts, there's now one out featuring Foo Fighters. Just wanted to let people know about that. We'll hear Arrogant Boy by Deep Purple, the new song, as we go to break here.
Okay, cool. So, again, speaking of tributes, I gave you the backstory, and we're going to talk to Ian from Brit Floyd for a bit right after this commercial break. Then I want to talk to you and hear from you about your thoughts on tribute acts, and also if you got some of your favorites, shout them out today as we take a look at that incredible phenomenon happening in the world of music these days, more and more with a guy that is certainly in one of the biggest in the world. We'll come right back with that after this on Trunk Nation.
Special trick. He knew what made the punters tick. Freaking the elite to a picked up beat. Good old Billy lived by his wits.
The Bonfire with Big J. Okerson and Robert Kelly.
There's a place called Yum Yums, the best donut ever. I went there, the lady had one left, and then she knocks it over with her stomach onto the floor. And I went, I'll take it. What? She goes, it fell on the donut floor. I don't care. I want that donut.
You called it a donut floor. That's not a thing.
It's all perspective.
In your mind, the whole place is essentially donut.
I don't
Because
care.
I pulled it out of the toilet. The donut toilet.
The Bonfire. Weeknights at 5 p.m. Eastern on Faction Talk or anytime on the SiriusXM app.
Dr. Radio on SiriusXM is here for you when life is hard, when you're dealing with a challenge that seems overwhelming, for when you need support and hope. Bringing NYU Langone Health's leading psychologists and psychiatrists to you, Dr. Radio can help you navigate difficulties like anxiety, depression, substance abuse, and more.
We're facing a crisis right now. We want to be here to help you.
Mental health support and expert guidance are available on Dr. Radio Channel 110 and anytime on the SiriusXM app. Just search Health and Wellness.
Tired of the same old game night? Switch things up with Chumba Casino. Play over 200 free online social casino games. From classic slots and blackjack to exclusive in-house favorites you won't find anywhere else. However long you got, you can play your way, anytime, anywhere. Make your next chill night a little more fun with Chumba Casino. Only available in permitted states. No purchase necessary. See terms and conditions for details. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21+.
Earn an accredited MBA in as few as 16 months for about $21K at University of Maryland Global Campus. Explore 10 specializations, including finance, HR, cyber technology, and more. Plus, showcase the value of your MBA with a comprehensive learner record and digitally demonstrate in-demand skills and credentials to employers. No application fee if you apply by June 1st. Learn more at umgc.edu. Certified to operate in Virginia by Shell.
Again, I respect the game. Game is game.
Every Monday, catch the Kenny Beecham Hour on SiriusXM NBA Radio.
Obvious double charge. Hell, he should have got credited for 2,000 this one because both of them dudes were set.
Quick hits, deep dives, and everything in between.
It was the funniest game I've watched in my entire life.
Hear the Kenny Beecham Hour every Monday at noon Eastern. Only on NBA Radio Channel 86 and the SiriusXM app.
When did watching TV go from a way to relax to a complicated chore? Well, if you're sick of huge cable bills or endlessly searching for the show everyone's talking about, then welcome to Philo. Philo's the streaming service that respects both your time and your wallet. Without needing to cut the stuff you actually love to watch, This means live TV for more than 70 channels like Hallmark, History, A&E, and Lifetime. Plus a huge library of blockbuster movies and classic shows. And an easy-to-use unlimited DVR that lets you save anything you want and skip all the ads when you watch. The best part? You get all this for just $25 a month when you sign up at Philo.tv. No hidden fees, no long contracts, just a genuinely great deal. And new users can try it completely free for 7 days. So head to Philo.tv, that's PHILO.tv, and experience a better way to TV. Subscriptions auto-renew at monthly rate plus applicable taxes. Cancel anytime. See terms at Philo.tv.
Hi, I'm Kathy Hill, founder of Tax Tiger. Tax Tiger operates on the Christian principles of honesty and integrity. Not only do we protect you from the IRS, we prepare your back taxes, release wage and bank levies, and negotiate the best settlements in the nation. Call Tax Tiger today to schedule your free consultation or visit us online at taxtiger.com.
Call today. 1-800-IRS-9196. That's 1-800-IRS-9196.
Now, back to Trunk Nation, your go-to destination for all things rock.
For the fans. I love the show. They just don't get any better.
I appreciate you saying that.
Trunk Nation with Eddie Trunk.
Great God in heaven, you know I love Eddie Trunk.
Sirius XM.
Yeah.
Fashion Talk.
All right, so if you're listening at the top of the show, I just gave you a whole overview about tribute acts and, how they come up from time to time on the show and how some of them get really, really big and how you've got all different levels of these happening and the different views on them and what have you. But what is not debatable is that clearly one of the biggest out there right now is a Pink Floyd tribute called Brit Floyd. As I mentioned, they are always on tour. We've talked about them quite a bit. They seem to be playing all over the world at this point. They are on a big tour now that is playing in Atlanta tonight, just underway. A massive tour includes 2 nights at Red Rocks coming up in Colorado and dates running pretty much through October at this point. And to talk a little bit about this band is the bass player from the group. And I believe he's the guy that called in when they just came up and I was talking about them. It's Ian Cattell, the bassist in Brit Floyd. Ian, do I have all that right?
Yes, you do.
Hey, welcome, man. And thanks. I thought we spoke before. I wasn't sure if I remember somebody from the band called. I wasn't sure if that was you or not. So how are you?
Yeah. Yeah, a friend of mine just mentioned that we were mentioned on your show, and he just said, call this number now. And in 5 minutes, I was talking to you. Things are going really well. Thank you.
Yeah, well, clearly, man, I thought this just kind of came to me, the idea of doing something like this, when I saw the press release that came out yesterday on your current tour. And that's why I've brought your band up a number of times, because it's incredible the business you're doing and the scope of what you're doing as a tribute band. So for people that are not familiar with Brit Floyd, you've been going for about 15 years. Give everybody the backstory on how this all started.
Well, back in the end of 2010, a bunch of us who are in Brit Floyd now were playing in a different bands doing the same material, and we decided to, there was a split. And so the North American version of that band was what became Brit Floyd. So anybody who has seen that other band, even going back years before that, saw all the same people. And, we just hit the ground running. We just had to establish ourselves under a new name, and it didn't take long.
How many members are in Brit Floyd? How many people are on stage when you're playing? I've not seen the band. So what's the lineup in terms of personnel?
Well, for most of the set, when you have everybody up there, it's 9 people. We have 3 backup singers, a multi-instrumentalist who plays percussion, saxophone, guitar, bass, whatever needs filling in, and then 2 guitarists, myself on bass, and the drummer and keyboards.
And when you started doing this, what level, like out of the gate, paying tribute to Pink Floyd, was there an immediate built-in audience? You'd mentioned that Brit Floyd kind of came out of another, I guess, Pink Floyd tribute, but was there an immediate built-in audience, or did you start out playing to just a few people in clubs?
Oh no, we hit the ground running, and we managed to just sort of bridge the gap based on the reputation of the people who were in the band. I mean that's one thing about tribute bands is that turnover can be kind of deadly if it's if it happens too often. But literally everybody in our band was the same going forward for the North American audience, and it took a little. I suppose it might have taken a little longer in Europe, but we still just went for the theaters and arenas show.
And you were able to do that kind of business. You were able to get in theaters and arenas right out of the gate because of the history of the previous band, or because of it being Pink Floyd and so many people wanted to hear that music.
Well, I think it's a combination of both. I think, I was recruited from another Pink Floyd band that was kind of local to Syracuse, but also in the 90s. I spent about 3 years in the 90s playing in a Pink Floyd tribute band. It was on a much smaller scale, but we would go into a city we've never been in. But we toured, I think we were in like 43 states in that 3 years period I was in the band. And we played loads of clubs we had never been in before. And just simply it's a Pink Floyd tribute band and we're from out of town, we could pull in 100, 200, 300 people in those circumstances. Back in the 90s at a bar or a club. And I think it's true today where, if you have a good media presence and people can at least look up and see what you're like, and you put out a quality product, Pink Floyd gets you along the way. But of course, the reputation that our lineup has speaks for itself.
Yeah, because for most people, when you hear tribute band, I think they think of a band playing in a club somewhere, a couple hundred people, everybody having a beer and just having, reliving the music and having some fun, and whether the band is dressing and trying to impersonate who they're playing, or they're just up there not doing that and just playing the songs, whatever it is. Obviously there's all different levels of this. And I think those sort of bands, and I see them all the time, most of the guys, they have day jobs. It's something they do for fun on the weekend, and that's all fine. But what you're doing, and what I think what's interesting about it, just looking at it in terms of what the business you're doing, this is a whole nother level. You're doing like way bigger business than some actual original bands would do. And I imagine for you and most in the band, this is your living, right? You guys are probably doing pretty well doing this, I would think.
Yeah, it definitely pays well. I kind of feel like I've hit the lottery. There are so many talented and amazing musicians out there that do very well, and some others that struggle. And no matter how much they sort of bang their head against the wall, it's kind of hard to break in. And I just feel like we've been very lucky, but a lot of it comes through just being a level of consistency, and also, being, dealing with people in a proper business like manner behind the scenes. You got to have relationships with all the promoters and the managers and the like.
Do you think you also benefit from the fact that Pink Floyd isn't and hasn't been active for a long time?
Well, yeah, that's true. As a band, they certainly haven't, but we've played across town from Roger Waters. I think we did a gig in, northern New Jersey, just across the river from Madison Square Garden on the same night. The thing is that, especially in the bigger markets, Pink Floyd could land right in there, and the tickets would go for a lot of money. Obviously, if they did that today, if the two principal guys, Gilmour and Waters, buried the hatchet and put on a show, it would be almost unaffordable for most people to go. So I think in that situation, we would still do pretty well.
And the origins, you mentioned Syracuse. Is that where you guys come from mainly, from upstate New York, or you basically scattered all the musicians as far as where you're based and came out of?
It's a long story. We have either plurality, I can't even speak, basically a majority or almost a majority of Brits in the band. It was originally formed from a management company in England. And I'm the sole Syracusean. And when I joined the project before it was Brit Floyd, I was the first non-Brit or non-Austrian Well, that's certainly the way the history of the band went. Absolutely. But my involvement began in 2005. Again, in the sort of the pre-Brit Floyd era. But it was a gradual increase through the years. We would add more lights. I mean, one of the biggest barriers is transportation. Two trucks and two buses, two tractor trailers and two buses, what we travel with. And in order to increase that, that's like a 50% increase. And that's just the transportation costs are just a huge part of it. So, but thankfully, the technology has gotten to the point where you can fit more and more lights and more lasers, and even the sound equipment has become more compact over the years. So we managed to put more in almost every year. It's quite astounding how you have to put it to the, kudos to the production manager and the team that we have dealing with designing the show and improving it every year. It's just wonderful to watch. Every year I look forward to seeing what's new in the show. For instance, this year we have a video wall. We're incorporating a lot of the wall tunes, and a lot of the media for that fits better in a kind of a widescreen format rather than having the circle. So we've got it's a 36 foot by 20 LED it's HD screen. That's just spectacular, and we still managed to fit in about 120 moving fixtures, moving lights, and a laser show to die for. It's really, really great. An award-winning one at that for the lasers. So it's quite an experience. We like to be able to say you don't have to close your eyes to make you believe that you're at a Pink Floyd show. I mean, we're not quite as big as a full-on Pink Floyd show, but we put on something quite close.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing just what you said right there, that you are a tribute band and you're traveling with two buses and two trucks. I mean, that's incredible. I don't know. I mean, I'm not to say there's a competition here, but I'm curious, do you know of any other tribute acts that are playing and touring and doing a production at the level that you guys are doing it? Am I missing any that are of the size and doing the venues that you're doing? Or are you the biggest, or there's others that are at that level?
Well, there are a couple, but there's the band that we came out of, the Australian Pink Floyd show. But we're I think we take a different approach than they do, and I believe that we're the ones to see. But good competition is good for everybody. It keeps everybody striving to be the best. And there are even some other bands that do less touring, but they're kind of day job people with lots of time and money on their hands, and they go out and they put on really good shows too. But they tend to play regionally or do fly shows where there's just a couple shows and then they go back home.
Yeah, but I meant bands like, even if they're not doing Pink Floyd, like, is there a Stones tribute or anything that you're aware of that is like doing the business that you guys are at?
You know what? I'm not quite aware. I do know there's, for instance, in Europe, there's a lot of ABBA bands that go around and play almost as many shows as we do.
Right.
But I can't think of. I mean, for instance, there's a band that we've double billed with a couple times recently, which is Get the Lead Out, Zeppelin band, and they they're getting quite big, but they don't do as many shows and they don't travel quite as far. But time will tell as more and more bands that did all these amazing things, all the classic rock bands that we all love, are getting older and touring less or stopping completely. I think the tribute band business is only just going to get bigger.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about it a lot, Ian, because just, I'm out there all over the country, and I've got some gigs coming up where I'm hosting shows with tribute bands, and or if I go to a House of Blues, every other act on the marquee is a tribute act. I'm a big fan of the band UFO. There's a UFO tribute called Lights Out I'm hosting a show with in Chicago next month, and the actual drummer from UFO, Andy Parker, is playing with the band that night. So it's really wild what's happening with some of this stuff, and I don't know where it goes from here. But the other aspect of it is, as I brought up before you came on the air, is you also have like instances where basically the actual band is a tribute band technically. The only difference is they have the rights to the name. You know, if you look at Foreigner or something like that, I mean, there's not one original member in that band, but they have been touring for years because Mick Jones has signed off on it, essentially. So it's really interesting where we're going with all this, I think.
Yeah, well, it's funny. That came to mind right before you mentioned it. Is that I remember we did a festival where we shared the stage with Foreigner, and at that time it was just the guitar player was the only one. And I guess he stopped touring a number of years ago, and they're still going strong. I mean, they sound great. You know, I think it does mean something if you're properly endorsed and you have, you know, sort of access to, you know, the you know, as consultants from the original band and things like that. We've also had a lot of the people around Pink Floyd playing with us, like Guy Pratt and Durga McBroom and Sean Taylor and the saxophone player from Momentary Lapse of Reason and the following tour. And, you know, we've had loads of guys join us either on tour for a while or just for one-off shows over the years.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I mean, again, on the record, I've got no problem with tributes. Some are better than others. And I think that, you know, depending upon how it's done and how it's presented, it's all good and it keeps the music alive and what have you. You know, there's been some recent flare-ups online. I mentioned it earlier where, you know, Dee Snider didn't say positive things about a tribute act, and then the singer in a Van Halen tribute kind of fired back. Where do you land on the detractors who say, you know, I don't know, they don't understand tribute acts or they don't support them or endorse them or don't think it should happen? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, if you don't feel like buying a ticket or listening to the music that you love because it's not the original people that wrote it, that's your prerogative. But, you know, what I have to say is that, you know, you're going to be in a room with people on stage who love the music and an audience who loves the music. And I think that's a good way to spend an evening, to be honest. I mean, you can always check out the media online and see how good they are and if they're worth the ticket price and all of that. But, you know, if you love live music, tributes are taking up a larger and larger chunk all the time. And there are live musicians out there that make their living off of it and love what they're doing and put their heart and soul into it. And, you know, it's an art form of its own kind. But, you know, if you, for instance, classical music, which, you know, obviously not nearly as popular, but all the composers, you know, probably 90% of them and then 90% of all the concerts out there are gone and have been gone for maybe 100, 200 or 500 years. And they're still a respected art form in their own right, you know, symphony orchestra side.
Yeah. It's, you guys do the world, right? I mean, you don't just do America. You play all over the world?
Yeah, we've I think through this band I've played in something like 47 countries. Wow. Something like that, somewhere short of 50. I mean, we played, you know, in you know, Ukraine. We played. Well, before Putin got really weird, we played in Russia. We played Northern Europe, Eastern Europe, South America. We've been to Japan. So it's a, you know, Pink Floyd is pretty universal. Any country you go to, no matter how remote it is, there are people that know about Pink Floyd, and we'd like to bring it to them wherever they are.
Obvious question here. Has Waters or Gilmour ever seen or commented on the band or maybe tried to stop you or shut you down? I mean, I think a lot of people, you know, I saw Paul Stanley make a comment about this once because there's so many Kiss tributes. He's like, well, it's fine until it gets to a certain level. Then we may have to kind of step in legally and start enforcing some things. Have you had any problems like that, or you've gotten endorsements from those guys at all or anything like that?
Well, I mean, the way I used to put it is tacit approval. I mean, they kind of left us to our own devices. I'll just say that our people are in touch with their people. And, you know, sometimes they'll say, "Oh, we didn't like that piece of media you used. It looked too close to, the official stuff." And so, sometimes we've altered what we've, presented visually. I'll just say that, well, back in the day, sort of the antecedent to Pink Floyd, Gilmour came and showed up at a show outside of London and came backstage. Damien Darlington was in the band then, and they hung out backstage for, I don't know, quite a while. And then they were invited to play at Gilmour's 50th birthday party and also invited to the final show of the Pulse tour in Earl's Court in London. So, Damien got to meet all those guys and got to, muck around on stage for a little bit. And even Rick Wright joined them on the stage at the 50th birthday party. So there has been a direct connection. We've actually invited Harry Waters to play with us, and he's done about, I don't know, I have to top of my head, like 30 or 40 shows with us. And he's obviously in constant contact with his father, and that's why I put it as a tacit approval. I've never spoken with him directly, but we get pretty wide latitude to do what we do.
Final question for you, and I brought this up on the air. So I live now these days predominantly actually in Vegas, and of course you're no doubt aware of the Sphere, which is this incredible venue there, and I've seen a lot of shows there. And most people have said to me, and I agree, that there's probably the ultimate band, if you could bring one back to ever play the Sphere, is Pink Floyd, because of the sound and the visuals. And I was talking about, growing up in the New York market as a kid, I used to hear commercials for Pink Floyd's music played in planetariums and all that. And of course, the Sphere is basically a planetarium on steroids, in terms of sound and visuals. And it, as you mentioned, it doesn't look like Roger Waters and David Gilmour are burying the hatchet. It doesn't look like Pink Floyd's ever going to operate again. And you guys are pretty much, the next closest thing out there doing it, and you're doing it at a level where you're playing some huge venues and all that. Do you think, or have you had any dialogue or even entertained the idea, if we could ever see a tribute act in a place like the Sphere, and if there was going to be one, again, the no-brainer would be Pink Floyd. Does that appeal to you? Have you thought about that? Has there been any dialogue about that?
Yeah, we've talked about the Sphere quite often. I think it's something that we would be very interested in doing. It would be a huge undertaking. Every band that's played in there, I mean, you can't build an enormous light show and have all the trussing and the lights all over the place. You see all the videos from the shows that are in there, and there's just a few lights, behind them on on stands, and it's all about the screen and the media. And the building,
Ian, just to your point, because I've been in there for a couple of shows, the building is the light show, and the building is the sound. Yeah, so you have to design all that, and that's where the money is.
Yeah. That. See, I forget what it is. Like you hear about 4K or 8K televisions and all of that. I forget what it is. It's something like 100K. Yeah. To be able to project on that, and that takes a lot of video work. A big investment in trying to get something that looks good. If we put our media that we put on our, it's impressive in a theater. In a small arena to put up our 36-foot screen, but it wouldn't look very impressive in there. We'd have to revamp everything and invest a lot in some guys who can really make it look amazing, and we would love to do that. We would love to hear from those people, and it would take some time for us to do it. And if the situation arises where we can make it work, we'd love to do that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I really think that you guys or a Pink Floyd tribute, and you're certainly the biggest or one of the biggest, I think that's the one tribute act that could go there and do it. Because like you said, it's a big piece of overhead that somebody would have to invest in. Because the way you do it, and I know a little bit about it, is there's a mini Sphere in Burbank. So you build out all the images and the graphics there. Metallica's doing it right now. And then once you load it in, You could go back there like every month for a weekend or whatever. That's what Phish have been doing. Once it's built, but it's a lot of money in overhead. But because Pink Floyd is so known for the sound and the visuals, even if it's not actually Pink Floyd, but an incredible tribute to them using that music, I mean, hell, I think if you went in there and you just did cool graphics and played Pink Floyd over the PA, people would turn up. So I really think there's a possibility that you guys could do it one day. I think it would be really cool.
Yeah, I think that would be great, and I can see it happening at some point. I don't know when, but I see that in our future.
Yeah. Well, that would be awesome. Well, listen, man, good luck on this tour. I appreciate some insights, and it's good to talk to you again for a few. And if you want to see this band, again, it's Brit Floyd playing, of course, Pink Floyd. The tour just started. They're in Atlanta tonight. You guys are out there for a long time, right? You're pretty much out through like October from what I see, right?
Yeah, we do it in kind of 2 month chunks of gigs, and we go for a couple of weeks or 3 weeks rest in between. But yeah, this is a 127 show tour in North America that we're putting on right now, and we're only a quarter of the way in, and we're having a great time. And people are showing up and having a great time as well.
Yeah, just so you guys get an idea of the venues these guys are doing. Like I said, 2 nights at Red Rocks in June. You're at the Greek Theater in LA, July 10th, historic venue there. Just incredible as I scroll down and I see, and every time I get a press release on what you're doing, the venues are bigger. There's multiple dates. It's an incredible thing to see. I noticed not until October, but you do have a Vegas date at the Orleans. So I'm going to circle that one because I'd love to come out and meet you and see and hear what you guys are doing. I really think it's incredible. And congratulations to you and the band for getting it to this level.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And for Vegas, consider yourself to be put on the list.
Well, I appreciate it. I still had your number from when you called in last time. So I'll make sure I send you a text so you have mine if you don't already. But stay in touch and safe travels out there. And again, congratulations, man. It's an incredible story.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on, and I'll see you in Vegas.
Yep, sounds good, Ian. If not sooner, take care, okay?
All right, you too.
Bye-bye. There he goes. His name is Ian Cattell, and he is the bass player in Brit Floyd. Arguably, again, I can't think of a band that I cannot think. There might be, and I'm sure somebody right now is listening. Oh no, you don't know about this tribute to whatever that I don't know. I'm sure there is somewhere in the world or even in America. But as far as to my knowledge, I don't know of a tribute band that's out there playing 128 dates, doing 2 nights at Red Rocks, and with 2 buses and 2 tractor trailers of gear. That is a level far beyond what most bands are doing from the 70s or the 80s or even the 90s. That is way beyond what most original bands are doing. That's just crazy. So you wonder why you see some of these people busting out and doing tributes that are even in established original bands. Because if you get it to that point, my gosh, it's crazy. The business you can do. And, it's what you start out doing, which might be like a little fun thing on the weekend with your buddies if you can grow it. And again, I think a big part of it, too, is the fanaticism of Pink Floyd's music, the fact that they don't exist anymore, the actual band. And obviously, and I've not seen Brit Floyd, but everybody I've talked to says they're fantastic at what they do. There's a big part of that, too. You got to spend money to make money, so you got to put that money into the show. And a big part of Pink Floyd are the visuals and all of that. And they obviously put a lot of focus on that. I think it's really fascinating. I really do. And I got no problem with it. I mean, it's Pink Floyd, especially in the case of a band like Pink Floyd, because they don't exist anymore. It's not like they're still out there. Here's the one thing I have a problem with, though. And I brought this up before on the show. I didn't get a chance to bring this up with Ian because it just hit me. The only problem I have with tribute acts or any sort of tribute cover situation is when people say, oh, they're better than the actual band. Or if you got a guy that was, from a cover band now playing in the actual band, like say Arnell now singing in Journey. oh, he's actually better than Steve Perry. That makes me nuts. Because you can't, it's not a fair comparison. Because yes, even if that person is technically better at singing the songs than the person they replaced or in some cases are impersonating, that's because that person has not put 30, 40 years of road wear on their voice. And they're probably 20, 30, 40 years younger. You know, using a sports comparison, you know, that's like saying, I'm going to go to my Giants right now in football. That's like saying Arvell Reese is better than Lawrence Taylor. Well, now he is. Because he's got no NFL wear on him and he's 20 years old. Lawrence Taylor is 65 and blown out on coke most of his playing career. You know, and is just lucky to be getting around Jersey. It's not a fit, but he set the blueprint, Lawrence Taylor. So of course you can't do that. When it comes to tribute bands, people, my God, Kelly Hansen's a better singer than Lou Gramm. Yes, now maybe. He's also 20 years younger, and he had nothing to do at all with those songs, writing them or singing them. He's doing a rendition of them. You've got to keep it in context. So yes, technically, if that's the case, I get, but you can't say it. It's just wrong to say, because that person would not exist if it wasn't for the person they are impersonating. And yes, over time, people wear down and they lose ability, but you can't, the people who created it are the benchmark. Sure, they might not be as good as they once were or not even active anymore, but you can't say that. It just bothers me when people say that. Even though it might be true in a factual sense, just technically at that time on May 13th, 2026, but it's just not a fair thing to say, in my opinion. You sit there and say, Brit Floyd's actually better than Pink Floyd. Yes, now. Because you got 9 people who've just dedicated themselves to recreating that sound. But they wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Dark Side of the Moon and what Waters and Gilmour and the rest of them created in the early 70s. So you got to pay that nod, and it's just a wrong thing to say, in my opinion. All right, thanks to Ian Cattell. Interesting dialogue there. We are going to take a break, and now I turn it over to you on the phones. Your thoughts on tribute acts. You love them, you hate them, you're indifferent. Have you seen some that have blown you away? You want to chime in? We welcome your calls right after the break at 844-686-5863.
The 2026 NASCAR All-Star Race, live for the first time ever from the Monster Mile in Dover, Delaware. It's a $1 million winner-take-all shootout. NASCAR's biggest stars.
Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, Kyle Larson. He wins the $1 million. $1 million, baby! Woo! You're the man.
Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Full weekend coverage on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio, Channel 90, in the car, and on the SiriusXM app.
If watching TV has gotten way too complicated for you, then here's some good news. You can say goodbye to a million different subscriptions, wasting money and endless searching for something to watch. And say hello to Philo, a better way to TV. Philo's the only streaming service that keeps you in mind, making TV easy and affordable without sacrificing quality or the channels you love. With Philo, there's a package that's right for you. Whether you're looking for the best live TV on more than 70 channels, with a huge library of movies and shows, and an unlimited DVR, or you're looking to upgrade your experience with Philo's bundle, unlocking access to even more blockbuster films on top-rated shows on HBO Max Basic with ads, AMC Plus, and Discovery Plus. Whatever you choose, With Philo, you're getting great TV for an even better price. Find out more at philo.tv. That's philo.tv. Subscriptions auto-renew. Cancel anytime. See philo.tv for more.
Tired of the same old game night? Switch things up with Chumba Casino. Play over 200 free online social casino games. From classic slots and blackjack to exclusive in-house favorites you won't find anywhere else. However long you got, you can play your way, anytime, anywhere. Make your next chill night a little more fun with Chumba Casino. Only available in permitted states. No purchase necessary. See terms and conditions for details. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21+.
Have you been thinking about what to do with the jewelry, diamonds, and watches you don't wear anymore? Maybe it's time to turn your old Rolex or Cartier bracelet into money you can use right now. At Worthy, we make selling your unwanted jewelry, diamonds, and watches easy and rewarding with our secure online auction. When you sell with Worthy, your items are fully insured, professionally graded, and auctioned to a network of over 1,000 professional buyers. You're in complete control, and once your item sells, you'll be paid fast. If it doesn't sell, we return it to you free of charge. With thousands of 5-star reviews and features in publications like the New York Times and Forbes, we've already helped over 80,000 clients get the most for their jewelry. At Worthy, we succeed when you do because we share the same goal, to maximize your earnings. For a limited time, SiriusXM listeners can get an extra $100 when your item sells for over $1,500 when you sign up at worthy.com/offer. Again, that's worthy.com/OFFER. Worthy.com/offer.
Hi, I'm Sherry with LifeSource Water. Every day begins and ends with water. It's in your coffee, your child's bath, the glass on your nightstand. It's the one thing your family uses constantly, yet most people never question it. A LifeSource whole house system treats every drop of your water, giving your family clean, conditioned water from every tap. Upgrade your water today by calling our factory at 1-800-WATER-99 or visit LifeSourceWater.com. That's 1-800-WATER-99.
Warranty limitations apply.
No filters and no volume control.
As a fan, that's fun as fuck.
We're back to Trunk Nation.
Holy shit, we're actually doing it.
And now, your host, the voice of the hard rock and metal community, Eddie Trunk.
I tell people I love them.
SiriusXM's Faction Talk.
Okay, we are back. Turning it over to you guys on the phones right now for the rest of the show. Remember, tomorrow, speaking of Arnel Pineda, who came from a Journey tribute, has been singing in Journey now for years, we will have Neil Schon scheduled to join us tomorrow from Journey, as Journey have announced 40 more shows on their farewell tour. So there's so many different layers to this tribute stuff. We'll take as many calls as we can here between now and the end of the hour. And, of course, we can do more tomorrow and Friday as we go into Free For All Friday if you don't get through on whatever you might want to jump in about today on this topic, which is, again, an emerging topic and certainly a hot topic and certainly something that became a little bit of a, not controversial thing, but, you know, when Dee Snider got into it online with the singer from a Van Halen, or one of the guys from a Van Halen tribute, and I talked about that. He was negative against tributes. Again, for the record, have no issue with it, but curious to see what your take is. And let's get into it on the phones right now with you guys. We'll get started with, where are we going to go? Let's start with Mark, who is in Florida, St. Augustine to be exact. Hi, Mark.
Brother Trunk, love your show. Hey, I'm glad you picked me first because I called you last week because I saw Britt Floyd last Wednesday. And I was telling you how good they are. And then we got off on the Sphere tangent, and I didn't really get to make my point. So I'm glad you took my call. They are fantastic. The show gets better every year. I've seen them twice in the last 2 years. And my point is go out and see them now because they are fantastic in all the venues they're in. And it won't be a $200 ticket to get into Sphere. And I think the smaller venues lends to them better. But I was going to tell you, if you hadn't been to Red Rocks yet, that show would be amazing at Red Rocks. But you say they're playing Vegas. So, yeah, go see them, bro. They are fantastic.
See, Mark, I'll be honest with you. I'm not the hugest Pink Floyd fan. I mean, I know the big songs and I know some of the stuff, but I'm not like a deep, hardcore Pink Floyd fan. I do want to see them, but that's my only thing is like, I will definitely go, but I'm not like hardcore with Pink Floyd. So that's the only thing is the band they're paying tribute to.
After hearing them play, Eddie, and what the guy was saying was how their show gets better every year. And what they did this year was, instead of having the big round light rig with the rotating spotlights with the screen in the middle, they incorporated that into that giant screen he's talking about, which added more. They had more room for more lasers. And the coolest thing they did, Eddie, because the first time I saw them, I was like, well, when they played One of These Days, there were no laser-eyed pigs floating above. They had a giant laser-eyed pig on the side of the stage when they played One of These Days. So they're killing it, man. And as far as other tributes go,
Mark,
go ahead,
Mark, real quick, one other question since you've seen that band. I haven't, but what are they charging for tickets? I meant to ask Ian that. Like, what's the average ticket to go in to see them?
I paid $90, dude.
Okay, well, that's still
$2,500 theater.
Yeah, I mean, $90 is still a good amount of money for a tribute act. I mean, I don't think there's another tribute band on the planet that's getting a $90 average ticket. That's incredible too. And I'm not saying that's expensive. I'm just saying that's what they're able to get, which is great. It's amazing.
Yeah, and that's about what I pay to see Jason. I've seen Jason's Led Zeppelin evening 3 times. And as far as music goes, they're both spot on, incredible music. But the thing about Brit is the show that they put on from what Pink Floyd did back in the day. And it's a lot bigger than the show Pink Floyd actually did, because I saw Pink Floyd in 1988 in the Nassau Coliseum, and they made a DVD for those shows, and I have the DVD. These guys have 100 more lasers. They have, better screen images, and they build the wall on the big screen in the back. So it's phenomenal. I'm glad you brought them up, Eddie. I love your show, and I could talk rock and roll all day, bro.
Thank you, Mark. Well, that's what we do here every day, at least for 2 hours. So thank you for joining us, Mark. Appreciate it. I mean, Ian alluded to that, the cost of this, and the fact that a couple things that were interesting in that conversation. He said that, some of the images that they might put up on those screens, those images are copywritten. So if you use those in a show and they're exact images of what Pink Floyd used, whether it's the pig or whatever it is, you get flagged on that. So you got to be careful. You have to alter some stuff a certain way. But the other thing is, that's why I asked Mark about the cost of the ticket, $90. Now, in today's world, $90 is not a big deal for a ticket. I've routinely people calling this radio show that's dropped $500 for a ticket, didn't think twice. It blows my mind. But with a band, with the business they're doing, is out there, and they are playing and they're touring with 2 trucks and 2 buses to carry all that gear. That is a lot of expense with crew and overhead and just transportation. And guess what else? And I'm sure Ian would have told you this if he was still on the air. Right now, as everybody knows, the cost of fuel is very, very high. So any band touring right now is feeling that big time. And unfortunately, like when it shot up a couple years ago, that cost is going to be trickled down on you. Because if it was going to cost $300 to fill one of those trucks, and I have no idea what, at diesel fuel $3 and it's now $7, you just do that math. Most bands can't absorb that. So it's a big production. It's a lot of overhead. So to do a ticket at $90, $100 is still pretty reasonable given what the expense and the overhead would be, I would think. And one last thing. The only other band I can really think of when you're dealing with a production, and Pink Floyd's so known for their visuals. The only other tribute I think of is a Kiss tribute, obviously, because if you're doing a Kiss makeup tribute, some of these bands are trying to replicate the old stage shows, obviously costumes, makeup. And I just saw something on Instagram. There was a video of a Kiss tribute. I even made a comment on it that was recreating the Dynasty stage set, and they had it pretty interesting, like pretty well done at the level they were at. But I don't think there's anybody that's doing anything at the level of what these guys are doing right now. Here's Jim in Indianapolis. Go ahead, Jim.
Jim in Minneapolis?
Indianapolis. Are you in Indy or Minnie?
I'm in Minnie.
Oh, Minneapolis. I'm sorry, Jim. Go ahead. You're on the air.
No, just want to make sure you get the right guy. And you could easily put $1,000 into a semi, just so you know. But hey, I wanted to bring up a band. Do you remember a band called Slave Raider back from the 80s?
Yes.
So at the end of their run, they spun off and they did a little different of a tribute band. They don't really dedicate themselves to one band. But if you've ever heard of Hairball or if you've ever seen them, what they do is they have the band, but then they'll have like 3 different singers and they'll come out in costume, and it's basically dedicated to like 80s. So they'll play Motley, they'll play some Twisted Sister, you'll get some Zeppelin, Whitesnake, Guns N' Roses. It's very entertaining. Won't cost you $90, but very talented band, very talented singers, and a show worth checking out.
Yeah, no, I'm well aware of them, Jim, and they do very, very well also, and thank you for the call. But that's a little bit of a different thing because that's more goes into cover band territory, and I know they're paying tribute to a certain era, and they're certainly connected, tribute bands and cover bands, but that's a little bit of a different thing. When you're doing a full tribute, you're only playing the music of one band, and you're specifically recreating for the whole set that band's music and in some cases the image. That's the other interesting thing about tribute acts. You have some where they actually try to look like the band at their height period. Zeppelin tribute, okay, the Jimmy Page dude's wearing a wig and he's got like the dragon pants on. The Robert Plant guy has got the half open shirt and the bell bottom jeans, whatever. I don't know. Or you might have these guys, they don't try to look anything like the band at their time, but they just do the music incredibly well. I've talked about the guy who sings for Jason Bonham. He does not try to look or act like Robert Plant at all. He has a shaved head. So there's different schools of thought on that, but there's a difference between doing a cover band or a tribute to a decade or era, and then doing a full-on tribute dedicated to one band's music. And that's, I think when you look at that, the big ones are clearly Kiss, Van Halen, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin. Off the top of my head, those are probably the ones that have the most tribute acts out there. Tommy in Florida. Go ahead, Tommy. Thanks for waiting.
Hey, yeah, man. As always, thanks for taking my call. The other guy kind of stole my thunder. I saw him too about maybe 5-6 weeks ago. I paid more than he did. I don't know where he sat. I sat in the second row, so I was a little over 200 for him. But I bought him early, and it was already almost sold out. There was no what do you call it? Blue dot fever or something.
Blue dot fever, right?
It was packed, so there wasn't an empty seat in the place. So I kind of thought if I didn't buy them early, they were going to go, and I think I was right. But it was totally worth it. Fantastic show. They played, in their set list, they even did a couple songs off of Momentary Lapse that I just like Sorrow and Round and Around. I couldn't believe they played those, and it was great. The other thing that they did is the guy busted out, I don't know what you call it, the slide guitar or the guitar where he sits down, the one Gilmore plays during one of these days. The guy even played that, and it was just phenomenal. The visuals, you need to go see this band. It's 1,000% worth it. And they even had one of their ladies that they had as their background singer. She comes out and she does the vocal solo part to Great Gig in the Sky. and she just absolutely killed it. Standing ovation. It was just wonderful. And they gave you a good show. I think they did like a 20-minute interval or in between, and I think they played for probably 2 hours and 40 minutes, 2 hours and 2.5, something like that. So the whole show was almost 3 hours. It was wonderful. And I think the only last thing, and then I want to hear what you had to say about this. What I can't understand is how like Roger Waters and Gilmore aren't going, I want a cut of this money. These guys are doing serious business. I mean, granted, Pink Floyd's got all the money in the world, but how do these bands not want the money? I mean, you can't even get your concert on YouTube without getting it cut off.
Well, it's different, though. There's rules different for everything because, and thank you, Tommy, because you can't get in other words, there is no legal recourse to get the money. Where Pink Floyd would get the money would be in the performance rights to the songs. So every time any tribute act or any band for that matter, cover band, anybody at any level, we've talked about this before, when they play at a bar, they play at a club, a theater, an arena, whatever, whether it's the actual band or somebody paying tribute to the music, when the songs are played, you do have to account for that, and the venue does have to pay to ASCAP or BMI or one of the performance rights organizations a fee. So there is where some money comes in. If you heard my interview a couple weeks ago with Phil Mogg of UFO when he was on, and I asked him what he thought about Michael Schenker going out and playing all UFO, as Michael Schenker recently did, Phil said, yeah, I've been keeping an eye on my performance rights royalties to see if they've spiked. And what he was referring to is because Schenker played all UFO songs, Phil, because he's one of the songwriters, would have had to see some money. Now, it's not any significant crazy money, but it's something. So that's the only place they could get that any tribute could command money. Because if you're paying that fee, there's nothing these bands could do. The only thing they could do, and you heard Ian allude to this, is if you are using images that are copywritten or things that are too in line with the actual thing, they can stop that and make you change it. That's why you have to maybe just make a slight change. Like if you're going to float one of the pigs or something, as Pink Floyd is known to do, you might have to alter the pig so it doesn't look exactly like what they used on the Animals tour or whatever. If they want to get nitpicky. There's certain aspects of your logo you might not be able to use. Certain things that might get too close, you're going to hear from that band's lawyer. That's the only thing they can do. If you're making enough alteration, there's nothing these bands can do. You can't stop somebody or charge somebody for playing your music. You're only going to get that money from the performance rights. And you're going to see that because that company's going to collect it on your behalf because that's what they do. That's why, with Kiss, it's a little different because with Kiss, if you're seeing a Kiss tribute that is doing the classic show, if Gene or Paul wanted to enforce shutting that band down, they could do it because they own the copyrights to the makeup design on the faces. However, they don't own that anymore. Remember, Kiss sold everything to this company, Pop House, a couple years ago, so it's on them to police that. And most of the makeup design stuff they leave alone. They may even leave the logo alone. It just depends. That's why in that interview I referenced, I saw with Paul Stanley once, he said, when he was asked about all the Kiss tributes, he said, they're fine with people having fun, whatever. He goes, but when it gets to a certain point, that's where we may have to step in. Meaning, if they get too popular and make too much money off of the name, likeness, and copywritten stuff, they may stop it. But if you don't have a band if you're working around the images and outside of a couple other bands, nobody has iconic face makeup like Kiss, there's nothing to shut down unless they're actually using your logo or using copywritten stuff. So that's why, Brit Floyd could conceivably do the Sphere as long as the images and the lawyers are in cooperation with staying away from the exact copyrights. Here's David in Iowa. Hi, David.
Hey, Eddie, long-time listener, first-time caller. In true Eddie Trunk fashion, you broke down the differences between tribute and cover band. I was going to bring up Hairball, but I was going to take it a different way, in the sense that for me, it's about creating the memory. I don't even want to talk ticket prices. But my dad took me to see the reunion tour for KISS on my 8th birthday in Spokane, Washington. And I didn't think I'd get that memory with my kids. And I got to take both my kids. My son was actually under a year to his KISS concert on the End of the Road tour. And I thought I'd be a one-and-done type experience for me. And my son's actually celebrating his 4th birthday today. But just a couple of years ago, I had him on my shoulders at a Hairball concert, pumping his fist to War Machine just like he did. And for me, it's just about celebrating the music. And that, I think that's their place. I think ultimately, no matter what show we're going to, we're trying to create that memory. And I think Hairball does a great job with that. And I think if you're going to the tribute, that's what you're looking for too.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, that's what it is. You have to take it for what it is. It's a tribute. It's a celebration of the music. It's memory lane. It's recreating a certain era. It's turning back the clock. Thank you, David. I mean, yeah, that's what all of this stuff really is. As long as you take it as that. Again, where I have a problem is when people are like, they're actually better than the real band. Okay. Again, compare them in their prime. You cannot say that. One band created the songs, the music, the vocals, the recordings, the image. You can't. The band paying tribute is 40 years younger. You can't make that comparison. That's my only problem. Everything else, whatever, man. It's all good. If it's good. And look, you know me, if it's real. Here's Scott in Ohio. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Eddie, good to talk to you again. It was also a pleasure to meet you at Tuckin' Reds back in early March. Thanks for that.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for coming out. Those were fun. Thank you.
You're welcome. Later that month, my wife and I got tickets to see the tribute band Jump to Van Halen, the David Lee Roth era. I was kind of reserved at first, like, okay, what am I going to expect here? Let me tell you something. They put the time in, and what a show. They were really, really good. The front man actually stopped in between songs and said, hey, you know what? We know we're not Van Halen. We're just celebrating the music, and we hope you have a good time. You know what I mean? They know they're not Van Halen. But it was great. I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly it. I mean, and look, a lot, and thank you, Scott. A lot of these bands obviously know they're not the band. I mean, you get somebody who's delusional, actually thinks they're the person. I mean, that's a little weird, That's another line. Somebody's going off into another planet here. But taking it for what it is and embracing it and having fun, again, I don't see where the problem is. Here's Jose in Toronto. Hi, Jose.
Hey, Eddie. How's it going, man?
Hi, Jose. All good.
All good. Okay, so here's the first thing would be Kansas. That is something that actually blows my mind. I've been seeing those guys lately, and no original member in the band. I don't know if they should be calling it Kansas at all. Obviously, this is a sanction thing because it's.
Wait, hold on, Jose. Isn't Rich Williams still in Kansas? I thought he was still in the band.
No. So Rich Williams, he left, I would say, middle of last year, and it was replaced by this guy, Scott Bernard, great guitar player, but you don't have an original member anymore there. So, yeah, it's very weird. I mean, the funniest thing is having somebody like 30 years older than me sitting beside me on the show and asking me, it's like, hey, it's like Terry Livgren in the band. It's like, where have you been the last 30 years? Or so? It's crazy. So that is something that it blows my mind again. Kansas is one of my favorite bands. but you don't have an original member anymore in there. And with regards to what you were saying of the performance rights, because that's what I do for a living pretty much. And the only exception that for people not being able to play live is like when the Guess Who, what Burton Cummings and Randy Bachman, they did that they pulled out of the Canadian PROs. So the other people, Jim Cale and Gary Peterson, they couldn't play live the songs because they didn't have like any PRO to pay for the royalties. So they would have to ask for permission directly from Burton Cummings and Randy Bachman. So, yeah, that was an interesting copyright case for sure, man.
Yeah, well, we talked about that, Jose. When that happened, I talked about it a lot on the air. That was really interesting because that was how they shut them down. And now Burton Cummings and Randy Bachman are going out as the Guess Who and took it all back. So that was really interesting. And they did that at their own expense because when you pull your music off of the performing rights accounting, you're also you're not just getting hit from tribute acts, you're getting hurt on radio play and all that and play in stores and stuff. So it's a big move that you're hitting yourself in your pocket to make a point.
It's correct because the PROs are the only ones who have all the mechanisms in place that actually they can track where your music is played, if it's using for sync rights, if it's played on radio. That was a big shot on their own feet, I guess, right? For the I don't know what is the situation right now with that, but that was an interesting thing for sure.
Well, the situation is, and thank you, Jose, for the call. The situation is that again, for those that don't know that story, remember it wasn't that long ago. It was only a year or two ago. There was a version of the Guess Who, the famous Canadian rock band that was touring. And I think it was only the drummer, one or two original members. I think maybe just one. I'm not sure exactly who was in the band, but I know there was Greg Smith was in the band, a bass player I know from here. But the Burton Cummings and Randy Bachman, who were the two principals of the Guess Who wrote all the songs, after this other version of the band touring for so long, they decided they wanted the name back and they wanted to go out and play. And they couldn't stop it. I don't forget what the legalities are, but their recourse was, since they wrote all the songs that version of the band was playing, they pulled their music off of what Jose's talking about, PRO, performance rights, making it basically, so if that version of the band went into a club, a theater, a casino and played, the casino would get in trouble because they were playing music that they couldn't account for. It was a loophole. And again, those guys did that. Not many bands will do that because you're cutting yourself out of money across the board. But they did it to make a point. They shut them down, and now they've got the rights back, and now they're going out with the band. Their point was, these guys are making all this money off or playing off of songs we wrote. They can go out. Now, that band could have still went out and toured. However, they would not be able to play the songs that Burton Cummings and Randy Bachman wrote, which are all the songs anybody would want to hear. They could never play without doing those songs because they took ownership of the songs back. Yeah, that was a wild one, and now the Burton and Randy are going out as the Guess Who. It's a big tour coming up after all that, playing their songs that they wrote. But we're going into that ties in with the tribute band thing because again, if tomorrow Roger Waters and David Gilmour decided they were going to pull their music from the performing rights groups, then immediately all these tribute bands would get shut down that do Pink Floyd. Because you can't do it then, because you can't account for the songs being played. But they would never do that, because that would also shut them down out of money or another brick in the wall being played 15 times a day on every classic rock station in the country. You'd also lose that money, and nobody wants to take that hit. Here's Chris in Colorado. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Eddie, I live in Colorado, so I've actually had the luxury of seeing some of these bands, and I've talked to you about them before. The Brit Floyd is phenomenal, but I will say there's another band that I've talked to you about. They're called Get the Lead Out, who actually plays there every year in September, sells it out continuously, like 15 or 16 years straight. And there's also another upcoming band. They're an Eagles tribute band, and they're called The Long Run, Colorado's tribute to the Eagles. They're more of a regional act, so they're starting to make their way nationally. But, man, when you think about the biggest selling records ever, and the Eagles is one of those bands. So, obviously, the tribute band is working really well. But if you can get over here, man, you got to see that Get the Lead Out in Colorado at Red Rocks.
Chris, I've heard of that Zeppelin tribute. I don't know if I may have even seen them. I'm not sure. But do they look or try to look like Led Zeppelin? Do they replicate like a whole Zeppelin vibe in terms of what they're wearing and what the guys actually look like?
No, so that's actually part of what they say. They have like 6 or 7 members, but and he says it. He says, "Hey, we know you're not looking at 4 guys up here, but as musically and it is dead on. I mean, if you had your back to it, you'd think you were listening to the record. I mean, they're phenomenal." So he admittedly, the lead singer will say, "We don't visually look like them, but if you're there to experience the music, which I think earlier caller said we mostly are." You can't go wrong with these guys. I mean, they're spot on. I've seen them probably about 5 times.
Yeah, now I know what you're talking about because I saw that band online. I've never actually seen them in person. And thank you, Chris. But I know exactly what you're talking about because if you look at them online, you're like, my God, they don't look anything like, it's not even what you'd think was Zeppelin. There's extra people and all that. But yeah, it's all about whatever it takes to replicate the music and whoever you have to get up there to do it. Which is fine. But then there's other Zeppelin tributes that you got guy with looks like Jimmy Page and wearing the pants. And again, somebody recreating John Bonham's look with the headband and Robert Plant's look with the jeans and the shirt, whatever. Putting a dove on his finger, whatever it may be. Let's go to Ryan in York, Pennsylvania. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, man.
I'm a huge Rush fan, and there's a lot of Rush tribute acts out there, which is surprising because they're very hard to play and very technical. But 2 of them that I saw, one is Solar Federation, outstanding, and the other one is called Why Not. And the unique thing about Why Not is not only are they a Rush tribute band, but they also have 4 studio albums out.
Of original music or re-recording Rush music?
No, original. And it's wonderful.
Okay, now when they play live, do they play that stuff or do they just play Rush stuff?
90% Rush, and they'll do maybe 2 or 3 originals.
Yeah, see, because that's the other challenge with some of these musicians. If they want to bridge into playing original music, that's a slippery slope because you start to lose maybe one song, whatever, but you start to lose some of your fan base, and then you start to lose some money, and then you start to lose some bookings, and that's a really slippery slope. And that's the challenge because some of them just get tired of playing covers and, hey, I'm a songwriter and I got stuff to say as well. Okay, that's fine, but you're going to take a big hit on your draw and your money if you mix too much of that stuff in. It's a real balance.
Right. You'll find that a lot of your Rush tribute bands, the singers were female because of the voice.
Right. Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah. Ryan, thank you. Appreciate the call. Yeah, I was telling you guys, I went to last weekend. I saw a couple of good friends, amazing guitar players from the local Jersey scene, Kenny Dubman, Dave DiPietro. So their history, Kenny was in the band Prophet that started out as a Pink Floyd tribute, and they would do huge business on the Jersey club scene back when the clubs were 2,000-3,000 people. And Dave with TT Quick, they used to do pretty much all AC/DC early on. Same deal. both of those bands, after a while, you're like, you know what? I want to write my own music. I want to do my own thing. I want to stop replicating something else. Okay, that's all good. But how you sell that, market that, make that work is really, really difficult to make that transition. And you ultimately will lose. You're going to take a hit for a while, and it's a big gamble. Because how do you get back to you telling everybody, okay, no, we're going to fold our tent on the original stuff. We're going to go play covers again. It's a hard thing. Here's John in Oregon. Hey, John.
Hey, what's up? I'm actually shocked that nobody has mentioned Zach Sabbath. I mean,
well, right. There's a guy doing the Sabbath tribute within the confines of his own band, right?
Yeah, and then that's what trips me out about the whole thing is I was watching TMS, God, at this point probably 17 years ago, and Zach said on your show that he could do the ultimate Ozzy tribute because he said, I've been singing the Boss's parts live for, at that point, probably 25 years. And that's the only tribute band I've ever seen. I saw them back in December, and they're playing here in Bend, Oregon at an amphitheater, opening up for BLS. Go figure. That's the only band I would actually tribute, quote unquote, tribute band that I'd actually go see because he does the Boss's vocals perfectly. They're so fucking good, and they're coming here in October. I saw them back in December. When I saw them in December, they had Dark Chapel.
Right, that's the tour. That's been out for a while, John. He's doing that every night.
No. I saw Zach Sabbath in December.
Right.
With Dark Chapel at a place called the Midtown Ballroom here in Bend, Oregon.
Right.
And there was a second band that was between Dark Chapel and Zach Sabbath. There's no BLS. And the second band was called Appetite for Destruction. And they were absolutely fucking horrible. But, God. Yeah, no, I'm seeing them on the upcoming tour coming up in, I think it's October 3rd or 4th at Hayden Homes Amphitheater here in Bend, Oregon. That is a
Zach, John, I got to run just because I'm short on time. Thank you. Zach has been doing Zach Sabbath for a long time. He's even re-recorded the first few Sabbath records and put those out as re-records. He did go out with Zach Sabbath as a headline show. The current tour is Dark Chapel, Zach Sabbath, BLS. So you have BLS doing some Sabbath songs in there. There's all these configurations of this stuff going on. Zach has done this Berserkus thing. He's doing it again. He puts on a few tribute bands unrelated to Sabbath or Ozzy opening on those things. I mentioned I saw Journey a couple weeks ago in Vegas, and the opening act was a 20 minutes Zeppelin tribute. They just came out, I think they were called Zepp USA or something. They were good. They just came out and played 20 minutes of Zeppelin songs, and that was the opening for Journey. There is an incredible guitar player named Randy Hansen who does a Jimi Hendrix show. I've seen him on the Blue Cruise. I've talked to him. I've had him on this show. Many people think he was the first ever or one of the first ever tribute acts because Randy started doing Hendrix like in the late 70s. And he was also the first tribute act to go out on a national tour opening for a national band of original music. He opened for Heart in like 1978 doing a Hendrix show. And at that time, nobody had done anything like that. So when we're talking tributes, Randy is actually considered one of the pioneers of doing a tribute show to one artist. And he is still doing it, and he's still incredible at doing it. Here's Michael in Florida. Go ahead, Michael.
Eddie, how's it going, man?
Good, man. Go ahead. I got a couple minutes. Jump in.
Okay, doke. Hey, listen, I'm going to get right to the point. I had the unique good fortune of seeing Almost Jovi, Steve Brown's tribute this past weekend in Roanoke, Virginia. And I know it'll piss you off to say, but there is better than Buck Jovi sounding these days. But they were just absolutely fantastic. I've seen a lot of half-ass tribute bands, and this was an absolute professional production. The band was great. Steve did play some guitar, which I was really happy about. And he assembled some really great musicians. So I just wanted to give them a shout-out while you were on the subject.
Yeah, well, Steve, I had Steve on the Hair Nation show. Thank you, Michael, talking about it a couple weeks ago. You can hear it on the app if anybody wants to hear that conversation. And I mentioned that band earlier in today's show, actually, that Steve Brown from Trickster has gone all in on a Bon Jovi tribute where he is the singer and he sounds like John. Now, again, to his point, he's saying, wow, they sound better than Bon Jovi does now. Okay, fine. But again, John has had well-documented vocal issues. John has been doing this since 1980. You know, he is older than Steve. He's got all the wear on him from it. You can't, it's not apples and apples. It's totally different thing. So yes, technically, yes, but it's not the same thing. Yeah, I don't know if people understand my point, why that's just such a weird thing to me. I understand it, and technically you are probably right. But it's not fair to say that to about the people that these people are tributing, because they're the ones that created it. The look, the sound, the image, the songs, everything. Without the people, you got to always defer to the people that started it and compare it in their prime, not 50 years down the line. It's not a fair comparison. All right. This is good stuff, man. I love talking about all this stuff, and it opens up a lot of different sort of angles, too, as you can see. There's so much to this. We can continue jumping in on this the rest of the week if you want. Tomorrow, Neil Sean, maybe I'll get some thoughts from him on this, because again, he found his singer in a Journey tribute. We'll have Neil on tomorrow, Free for All Friday on Friday, so more calls then. Thank you to Ian Cattell of Brit Floyd, and we'll talk to you tomorrow, 3 Eastern.